This episode is brought to you by Benton Integrative Medicine, a concierge, membership-based medical practice offering direct primary care, functional medicine, hormone and sexual health, and wellness and vitality programs.
At Benton Integrative Medicine, they look beyond symptoms to uncover root cause solutions, helping patients restore balance, energy, and well-being through a comprehensive and personalized approach.
Their team believes in medical freedom, informed choice, and patient autonomy, empowering you to take charge of your health with a trusted partner by your side. Learn more at bentonintegrative.com and discover how integrative care can help you thrive, body, mind, and soul. Our listeners know that the three of us are passionate about exposing the broken systems within our society, revealing how the quest for money and power has corrupted so many of them so that they no longer serve us.
That's right. We talk a lot about our broken medical system, and that includes our broken medical insurance system. We believe that it is time we dismantle the broken systems and work together to rebuild new ones that actually serve us.
And that's why we are excited to share an answer we found as an alternative to your traditional insurance plan that charges you exorbitant monthly payments and deductibles, then asks you to pay even more when you get sick, that controls your medical decisions, including what your physician is allowed to do and prescribe, and that rakes in billions as corporations at our expense.
That's why we love Crowd Health. We interviewed CEO Andy Schoonover in episode 106, which we encourage you all to check out to learn more. But Andy founded Crowd Health after experiencing firsthand just how inept and outrageous insurance companies have become.
Crowd Health is not an insurance company, but a platform and a community that empowers you with a crowdfunding tool and a wealth of resources to efficiently manage your healthcare costs. And it's an excellent alternative to health insurance, allowing us to escape the healthcare matrix and put us and our healthcare providers back in charge.
Ever since my family and I made the switch to Crowd Health, not only are we proud to be part of a company with integrity, but we love that we are free from the broken insurance system. We will never be part of that system again. We've had nothing but an A-plus experience. From before we even enrolled, we connected with an advocate who answered our questions. Then upon enrollment, we were immediately assigned a personal advocate who is literally a text away anytime I need her. If you follow them on Instagram and Twitter, you will see not only how much they truly care about each of the members, but also how much money they save us. This is why we encourage all of you to go to joincrowdhealth.org to learn more and to use code JUSTTHINK to get your first 3 months of membership for just $99 a month. Again, it's joincrowdhealth.org with discount code JUSTTHINK. You can also reference our Just Think the podcast Substack for more information.
Well, hey, everyone. Welcome to Just Think the podcast. This is Holly.
And Amy.
And Kristen.
And today, our doctor is in the house. Dr. Ben Schwartz is back with us. Hey, Dr. Ben.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back.
I am so excited to talk to you about this today because I have seen this more and more in conversation, and Kristen and Amy and I have been talking about it because we want to continue to learn about this subject. But talking about your nervous system, your central nervous system, how you are carrying stress, chronic stress, anxiety. And it's not just for us, Dr. Ben, it's for our kids, because what we're finding is that, I've seen a lot of influencers lately posting about like, hey, if you're eating right and you're exercising and you're prioritizing sleep, but you're still struggling, we need to talk about your nervous system and how you're regulating that. And I know for a lot of us, we've kind of learned it is a skill that perhaps we learned over time is how to bring ourselves back to calm, how to deal with our stress, how to manage it. And we know that, this is an area that you have some expertise in and you know why it's so important. So we wanted to invite our audience into that conversation today. Does that sound good to you?
Definitely. Let's do it.
All right, perfect. Okay, so let's just start here. Well, for people who go, what do you mean by your nervous system? What do you mean by regulate your nervous system?
Yeah, I think a lot of people hear like parasympathetic, sympathetic. And we're like, what? What is that?
I know. So I think I do have a pretty unique perspective on it, just coming from my naturopathic doctorate as well as being a doctor of chiropractic. Both of them, they look at the nervous system the same, but we just address it differently. So I get to kind of blend both of those backgrounds. But the nervous system is everything from your brain to your spinal cord, and every branch from your spinal cord that touches every organ system in your body, every muscle in your body. That's what we mean when we say everything is all connected. And the nervous system is, without a shadow of doubt, the most powerful thing in the body. And I'll even joke with some patients, and I'll say, it is way more powerful than me, is way more powerful than you. It is way more powerful than any supplement you're going to give it. It's got that ability to basically override the system whenever it pleases under the right circumstances. So when we're talking about regulating our nervous system, it is very important, but there's not a pill that really does it super well. Most people will have or at least think that they have a gut problem or a hormone problem, or maybe they're very fatigued, and we want to blame this on, maybe our digestion is poor, maybe I'm eating something, perhaps I'm not sleeping well. All of that might be true, but underneath all of that is usually a nervous system that is stuck in survival mode. So hopefully by the end of this podcast, we kind of learn about what does that survival mode mean for me, and how does it make me feel? How do I get out of that survival?
Well, that's the thing that I think that where people don't realize their capacity to control that too, or their ability to impact it. It's not
Mhm.
just something that, quote, just has a mind of its own. It's actually connected to our minds, right?
Yeah,
We should start there. The way that we think and the way we believe. I know that you've touched on this before, Ben, that you're like, your mindset in health and in sickness, in sickness and in health
it's
is a
everything.
crucial component to how and whether you heal. You want to talk about that first, about what we need to start with up here?
Totally. You have to be open to healing. It's really a non-negotiable when I'm treating anyone. Can someone get better? Let's just talk about gut health. Can someone's gut improve if they do not address the nervous system? Yeah, temporarily, yeah, but the progress you get is going to be limited. There's going to be a hard wall where at some point you're not going to improve if the nervous system does not improve. So what I try to do with every patient is I have them visualize, and I want them to picture like what true health means for them. What is their why? Why do they want to feel healthy? If they were to feel healthy, what would they do with their lives? What would their job look like? What would their time with family or friends look like with their children? So, why do you want to be healthy? Are you even able to see yourself healthy? That's so important, because if you just have this strong identity with the problem that you have and the symptoms that you have, I promise you it's going to be very hard to shake it. You've got to believe that when I wake up the next morning, things are going to be a little bit better. 10% better, 10% better, 10% better. Just small wins at a time, because it's very hard to undo all of the years of wear and tear we put on our body. But you really have to say, and maybe even some affirmations throughout the day. I am capable of healing. I manifest healing. I know how well I can feel. That is me. That is who I am. It's all within me. And it's not a silly little thing that we should tell ourselves. We should believe in our body. The reason that we are alive and we're waking up the next morning is because our body is fighting to live. So why do you want to live? What is your purpose? Have a very strong purpose for why you want to heal, and your body will do the rest.
My husband and I were actually on our walk. We walk every morning, which is also good for your nervous system, taking a walk, getting out in the sunshine and everything. But we were actually talking about, not about people, but kind of that, like the victim mindset, and knowing. And so this is one of those things too. It's like, I feel like if people are coming to you, Dr. Ben, they at least have some inkling or some thought that there is a possibility of being healthy and getting to the root cause and finding what's wrong. But I think they don't realize what it's going to entail, that it's
Mhm.
going to take ability, and it's going to take positivity. And it's not just like, hey, you're going to heal overnight. Like you said, it's like you've got to envision it, and you got to be patient, and you got to know, you got to work on it. But I think it does take work. And I feel like, number one, getting out of the victim mindset, which I feel like none of us are in that. Or, I mean, I'm sure we go through it every once in a while, but we're like, no, we are in control. But also I personally feel like, and it's probably my personality, that it's almost harder, and I know we'll end up talking about this, to for someone like me to actually work on the nervous system
Mhm.
because it's actually more making yourself relax, making
Mhm.
yourself breathe, making yourself calm down and take a breath and take a breather instead of go, go, go. It's not like, oh, I need to go exercise. We know resistance training is important. We know cardiac activity is important. We know eating right is important, but we also don't realize how it's equally important to relax,
Mhm.
rest, breathe, meditate. And y'all, I'm not great at meditating, but I do love one of the reasons I love yoga and walking and some of those things is that is a moving meditation. There are
Mhm.
different ways to meditate. It does not have to be sitting there like Buddha or sitting there like Jesus. Like it is not just like alming everywhere.
Mhm.
There's even prayer. Is it prayer is meditation? Like
Mhm.
there's so many different things that you can do, and so I'd love for us to address that too, like different ways to like make yourself chill out.
Yeah, because I think that like what Kristen's saying and like what you said, that it's like your mind is a component of your central nervous system. It's
Mhm.
not all of it. It is the part that we can start to control, which I think is so important to send that message to our listeners. Like you actually do have more control of that than you think. And it is making a choice to think differently. But like Kristen said, for some of us, if you were to tell me or Kristen, hey, go sit in the grass and meditate for 30 minutes, it would be one of
Mhm.
the hardest things you have to do. Because
Oh, yeah.
stillness for us only works in certain ways, and movement for us actually quiets this. Our mind becomes quieter as our bodies move. And I will tell you, the epiphanies in life, the times where I can hear God speak to me is often when I am moving.
Mhm.
It's not when I'm sitting. So, can you talk about ways to, depending on your personality and what really speaks to you, what are ways that we can calm that
Well,
nervous?
and I also want to add, I just want to understand too, like, I know that there's the mental side of the nervous system, like the mindset side, but there's also like a physiological side. Hopefully, we can talk about. But
Mhm.
like, what does that even like? What does it mean when if you aren't calming down your mind, your mindset? How does that actually? What does that do to all the little?
Mhm.
I just picture these little like
This is
string. Like,
yeah.
how does what you think actually impact the little strings that are touching your organs and touching your, like how does that work?
How does it work?
Yeah,
How does it
there
work?
that's what's conducting the whole symphony is the nervous system. So it isn't always just about, what is my mental load? How much stress do I have between the ears? The nervous system is going to regulate your hormones. It's going to regulate your digestion. It's going to regulate your immune response, the amount of inflammation that we have in our body, the pain that we feel. So it's much more than just like, I got a lot going on between the ears. My mind is just chaotic right now. It's dictating the chemistry in the body. And it's bidirectional. It's a two-way street. Bad chemistry in the body is also going to affect the brain. We can talk about the vagus nerve a little bit too if we want to. So
Yes.
it's basically telling the body what to produce and how to message from system to system. And if you're stuck in that survival mode, which a lot of us are, and you mentioned it too, Amy, like sympathetic versus parasympathetic, right? Sympathetic being very survival, flight, fight, freeze, and parasympathetic being very healing and reparative to our bodies. We want a good balance between the two of them. It's not about being perfect and always in parasympathetic. That's not good either. You want to be able to handle the stress and then get your body into a spot where it can heal. And that's why the nervous system is so important. So, folks who have poor digestion or they have higher rates of anxiety, we're starting to notice some hormonal changes. We're out of the healing mode, and we've probably been out of it for a very long time. We're very sympathetic dominant. And truthfully, I don't really, I'm not throwing stones here at anybody. That's just the way we are in America. We are on overdrive all the time. I mean, we are inundated by uh, emotions and our own personal expectations for ourselves and our family relations that we have, and even work. I mean, are you kidding me? Work? Like, think we have the same response to an email that we do as if we're running from a bear. right? And it may not
Mm.
feel that way, but chemically, that's how we receive it. And we live that all day long, all day long. And even sometimes when we think we're doing all of the right things and we're kind of getting our mind away from those thoughts, it's not always about what am I doing that's right, but it's what am I doing or what am I not doing that should be right. So if you can't get into that meditative state, if you really can't calm your brain, I mean, think about even at night while we fall asleep, there are so many people who watch a lot of television or they're scrolling on their phone or they actually do something that's very stimulating in order to get them into a restful state. That's kind of backwards. That goes against our biology. So what does that tell you? There's a message in there. It's not that anyone's doing anything wrong, but it's that we actually feel safest when we are very sympathetic dominant. And moving away from that into the parasympathetic is not where our body feels safe. If we can go to rest with a bunch of blue light in our eyes and watching a bunch of news on TikTok and dancing and comedy and we're like, this is invigorating emotions that we're creating, and that puts you to sleep, like we're on overdrive. So working to get back in the parasympathetics, that's what you said, Kristen. Be accountable for what we do and what we do not do, and be very patient with yourself. It comes with time. Being sympathetically dominant is a learned trait. You have to unlearn that.
Mm.
So pretty,
That
pretty,
makes
I mean,
sense.
lots.
Well, yeah, it is. But I think that's what's good about having this conversation is because when people, like Amy said at the beginning, we hear a lot about this, but we don't really understand what it all means. And so basically, what you're breaking it down is to say, with the parasympathetic and the sympathetic is that, that basically we have to learn how to move out of what is it? To move back into the parasympathetic. Is that right?
Parasympathetic, yeah.
Right? Because the sympathetic is coming by the external. And so we've got to use the internal to control us back. And I would say too, don't you guys think this? Like I know this year, and Amy and Krista know this. I've said I've had to tune out noise more than ever on social media. That
Hmm.
like my brain and my nervous system started to feel anxiety, confusion, fear, all these things that I was like, you know what? I was not meant for this. I was actually not meant to digest all of this like this.
Hmm.
I can feel what it's doing to me right here in my chest. And
Hmm.
so I'm going to make the choice to pull away from it and actually not consume it. And here's what if I think every American put their phones down, Chris and I were talking about this before we started recording, put your phone down, get outside, go walk.
Hmm.
Pay
Such an easy
attention
way.
to right? Pay attention to what you see. If you think the world is bad, go watch the squirrels and the birds in the park, in the yard, right? Like it will change your perspective. And then that in turn changes what I'm feeling in here. Do you know
Hmm.
what I'm saying?
Like interesting too, though, is that a lot of us, and I feel like this is probably a little bit me too, is like you don't feel it's like it's an unconscious thing. Like I don't feel stressed on a daily basis. I'm not
Exactly.
like wound up and just, whatever. And like, we've been just operating the same way for years and you don't realize like, oh my, have I been in the sympathetic for 2 decades and I didn't even know it. And I feel like I'm doing okay. But then it's like, it's almost like having to unlearn something that you don't even know is even affecting you
Exactly.
or is even a problem really. So that's where it just gets really hard, you know?
Yeah.
It's one thing if you already feel the stress and anxiety, but if
Right.
you're not a stressed or anxious or overwhelmed person, now, obviously we
We
go
have
through
moments. Yeah.
right. We have waves
Hmm.
of that where I'm like, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed, like certain days in your
Right.
cycle or just certain days that are just random. But like there are people, of course, that are in that major phase and they know they need to address it. But
Hmm.
then those of us that like feel like, hey, I feel like I've got it. Yes, I've got stress, but I feel like I handle it well. But then you check your cortisol levels and you're like, well,
Hmm.
I'm not. And so like, so it's just like that's where it's like it's easier to try to lose weight when you know you need to lose weight.
Right.
But if
Hmm.
you're just like skinny fat, but you feel like you need to get stronger, then that's different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe
Absolutely.
that's not a good analogy, but it's
That's
just one of those things.
that's a good population of people are those who are stuck in that survival mode and they don't even realize that they're stuck in that survival mode. I feel like a lot of people
Hmm.
actually get frustrated with me when I really try to work on the nervous system with them first before we do anything else because it explains why people who eat very clean and they take their supplements and they they exercise really, really strictly, but they're still very wired or very tired. They're bloated. Their hormones are imbalanced. They're in pain. Like the truth of that is, if the nervous system is dysregulated, then the body is not even going to properly respond to those interventions that you're doing. It's not for nothing. It's not a waste of time, but your roadblock that has put you in an office like mine is more than likely the nervous system. And I'll have to
Mm.
have that conversation with people right out the gate is, look, we can work together, but I promise you that I've seen this movie 1,000 times. If we don't do anything to address the nervous system, then we need to limit our expectations and the improvement that we're going to get. And it's just because I don't want to waste anybody's time or money or my own, knowing that this is going to be the biggest hurdle. Are you ready to take some very drastic changes in your life to heal? Because that's going to be our limitation.
Hey, I want to point out before we move on, like this is so important too, because two things. I did a functional med online, nursing course last summer, and I do specifically remember them addressing saying like people, especially people who are like having stubborn fat loss, like you're not able
Hmm.
to lose. If you are not sleeping and you're still having a lot of stress, you're going to hold on to that. But once you start addressing your stress and sleep, a lot of times people's fat just starts melting away. I'm not saying that's always going to happen, but it's something like where it's holding on. It's just like the missing link. And the other very important part, speaking of missing link, it's actually the title of this series that I watched with cancer. And it was a lot of people talking about how they healed themselves naturally with cancer, had these great success stories. But then those who had the cancer return, every single one of them, what they had not addressed was emotional trauma,
Mhm.
pent up like emotional trauma that you may not realize that's still there. And so this all ties into the thing you don't realize that's there. And then they needed to address that. And that's where the true healing came.
Is that what you're talking about too, Dr. Ben, is sort of like doing the inner healing work in order like, sometimes
Totally.
that's what people want to avoid, right? They don't wanna go there. They don't wanna talk about it. They don't wanna talk about the past. They don't wanna talk about what hurt. And so I think is that what you kinda are trying to get at with some folks when you feel like
When they come in, like, what do you like when you say, "Let's address the nervous system before anything else, so here's what I want you to do."
Yeah.
Yeah. We,
What is
I mean, it's so true. And just to touch on that, Kristen, I can be working with someone for a long time and we get maybe a little bit better, but we've really hit our plateau and they'll go on vacation or something and they'll be like, everything just disappeared. I felt amazing. Or they have, leave from work or just anything that takes them out of their normal day to day. And they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I wish I could do that all the time. Well,
Mhm.
that's the message, and it's very hard to work with, and I challenge patients in that way. But I'm like, if you are going to make strides in your health, there are things that are limiting that progress right now. And if it is a matter of ending a relationship or disconnecting yourself from someone who's very toxic to your body or leaving a job that is hurting you way more than it's benefiting you, no matter what the paycheck says, it's a very hard conversation. I can't prescribe that, but we've got to look in the mirror and say, well, where is this all coming from? And those people, I mean, it happens all the time. And you're right with something like weight loss. And, I think about it like if our primal versions of ourselves are if we're running from a predator, right? Then our body's instinct is, holy crap, I'm in danger. I don't really know when my next meal is going to be. My cortisol is through the roof. My blood sugar is unstable. I'm just going to hold on to everything I've got because I might need this fat to eat, basically, to use as my nutrition. And we don't think of it that way. Why would we? We're not running from lions. But your body sure thinks of it that way. And then additionally
Yep.
too, I mean,
Makes
if you're like super bogged down and fatigued throughout the day, how have we trained our circadian health to respond? We're not working with the sun and the moon appropriately. We have all of this artificial light coming in and we don't even know up from down at that point, but our body is still either on overdrive and overproducing, or just totally exhausted and underproducing. And that's more than likely root cause. If we're going to call it root cause, it's probably coming from nervous system dysregulation. And I'm sorry, Amy, you'll have to remind me your
Well,
question. I just went off on a tangent.
Well, so my question was, so if you start with nervous system dysregulation with
Yeah.
people who come in, then what do you ask them to do? What are the things that you ask them to do?
So there's a couple of tricks we have. I'll use acupuncture on patients and kind of work on the bioenergetics and get their cortisol levels back down. I see that all the time. Someone with super high, HPA axis dysfunction, phase 1, phase 2, whatever it is. And we run their cortisol and we see it. We do a couple rounds of acupuncture, we rerun it, and it has actually stabilized. So they're in a much better spot to receive healing. We'll also we'll refer out to a company there called Saraset. They do a lot of neural work. They kind of hook your head up to a couple of little plugs, and they assess the brain waves, and they put you through different imagery and different sounds to help actually like tell the brain, hey, this is what we're supposed to be feeling. We need to use less of this lobe of our brain, more of this lobe, and actually like, do some intervention to get their brain back into a spot that can heal. I can think of a patient recently who I had who was, maybe stuck in the most freeze state that I've ever seen. And it would be worthless to work with me because you all know my advice. I want to create the conditions for health. I want you to sleep well and move your body and be motivated to eat good foods and go out and socialize and engage with the earth. And he couldn't do that even if I asked him of it. He knows it's the right thing to do, but he was so stuck and his nervous system was just confined. So we started doing Saraset with him, and he's starting to break through that. And his days are beginning to look very different. And at that point in time, when he's able to actually do the activities of daily living, I'm ready for him and we're ready to heal. But additionally, too, to speak to another patient population is gut health and the vagus nerve between the gut. So I'll give patients recommendations on what to do, if they should do some cold water immersion, if they should hum, gargle, ground, get your feet on the earth. Like we'll do all of that in adjunct with what we do for the gut protocol. But treating the gut is incredibly impactful to get people out of that sympathetic dominance or that survival mode. Because our gut is constantly communicating with our brain. But our gut is also one of the main producers of our serotonin and our GABA and our dopamine and how we feel. How motivated are we? How much energy do we have? Are we happy? Are we sad? Are we overly anxious? So a lot of that starts in the gut. So it's different for everybody, but some component of nervous system work initially very important, and then I will often use gut protocols to at least kind of jumpstart the system. You all know my bias. I'm very big on a happy, healthy gut, and everything else functions really well if you have that. But cleaning up the gut, getting the right microbiome in there, fixing leaky gut, bringing down any intestinal inflammation, like that's usually a phase 1 for me.
Yeah. Well, and I can attest as someone who never had what I would call considerable anxiety or anything like that. When my gut microbiome got thrown off by taking Advil for pain, by the way, when that went off and I started having panic attacks, I didn't even know what they were. I literally thought I was slipping out of my body. And it freaked me out so much because I thought, this is going to sound really bad, but I'm like, I'm not crazy. Like, I'm not, like, my mind it's not up here. Somehow I knew it wasn't that. But then when I started researching the connection, I was like, oh my gosh, it's probably my stomach. And then I started having a lot of belching, had a lot of so it was the silent reflux, no heartburn. I was losing my voice. I was, just things that I could then start to piece together. And by the way, I had to heal myself. Even in spite of seeing some of the best doctors in my area for this, no one could figure it out. I ended up figuring it out and ended up healing it over time. And one of the things that I did, Dr. Ben, was I planted a flower garden. And my husband to this day tells the story. He said it's like the garden that healed her, but it wasn't the only thing because I had changed my diet, was putting the right stuff in my belly. Like I was doing all the things, right, to heal. It got my mind off of feeling like garbage every day. When I got outside and planted and then saw it just distracted me enough that I could stop focusing on how bad I felt. And it really helped me turn the corner. And the last thing I'll say, because I would love for you to speak on this because you're a chiropractor. So many Americans have chronic back pain.
Mm.
Chronic back pain. My husband was one of them. It was so debilitating. He finally went to Duke. This was years ago, and they did a surgery on him that did not work. So he also had to heal his back. But somehow he found this book by one of the back surgeon who said he had come to the conclusion that it wasn't what necessarily he could see on a scan that would determine someone's pain. It was how they managed their stress and what was going on with their central nervous system. So my husband reads the book, and basically what it says is this: Paul's back and my back could look exactly the same. We could have a few disc issues. I feel no pain. He feels all the pain. He said people who internally tend to have more back pain than those who externalize.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so my husband has shared this book with multiple friends who had back issues, and they fixed it without surgery. My husband did yoga, did a couple other things, but healed his own back, and now he gives it out to everyone. He's like, first, before you do anything, you need to do this, right? So can you talk a little bit about that as a chiropractor?
Hey, real quick, before you even say that, Amy, I know I had to throw this out there. When you're talking about the flower garden, I'm sitting here thinking of mine and Amy's dead plants. We're like, maybe we need to.
Guess what? They came back alive. It's a perennial, and they are blooming, honey. We were laughing. My flowers on the front porch were dead sticks. And I'm like, welcome to your home. So lovely. We were laughing so hard. I'm going to take a picture for you. They're green.
Yes, please. Oh my gosh. But do you have a picture of them when they were dead? Because
It was very inviting.
literally,
It's not a reflection of your health at all.
I'm like, maybe that's our problem.
The blooming ones are. The
That's
blooming.
right. But yeah, no,
Sorry.
Holly, I know the figures you're referencing, and I thought that was like groundbreaking stuff, is getting imaging of people who have like actual mechanical issues in their spine, and they've got bone degeneration and they've got discs out, and there's like identical imaging from one person to another, and one person is experiencing pain and the other is not experiencing pain. So what is the difference there? And that's where I think what we're talking about, everything surrounding that, is what's most important. But for my chiropractic background, I rarely, I mean, we treated a lot of pain, and that's true. Like I want people out of pain. We can live a much better life without pain, and everybody knows that. But a lot of it for me was nervous system regulation and getting our autonomic nervous system back in place. That was the most impactful stuff for me. People's joy for life and happiness. And I mean, of course, their pain went away, but you'd see stress reduce, digestion improve. That was the coolest part for me. But that's because what I said at the beginning of this is coming out of every level of our spinal cord are branches of the nervous system that are innervating each of these organs. And some of them, yes, they innervate our intestines, they innervate our adrenal glands. It's why you can see improved digestion in a baby that we perform very mild adjustments on. And if they're colicky or if they're constipated, adjusting will help them actually move bowels and create more motility. And people who are very, very high stressed, if you just get that input back into that organ from the nervous system, there's a lot of truth there. That's basic biology. It's basic anatomy. If there's something, I think of it like a water hose. If you turn on a water hose and there's a kink in it, or you've got your foot on the water hose and it's just kind of like putting out the end, and that's what I think the nervous system is doing. There's a block in the nervous system, and it can't, the flow of energy from the nervous system can't get to where it needs to go. So when you adjust someone, or when you manipulate the spine, and we take really tight constricted muscles off of a nerve, you're kind of taking your foot off of the water hose and you're restoring that flow. So for me, that's always how I envision the adjustment, is making sure that from brain to whatever part of the body that we're working on, you have that input as ample as it can possibly be.
I think this is also where, like, to me, like chiropractic adjustments, acupuncture, even yoga and exercise, it all is opening things up and stretching things. If you are just sitting in place, like sitting at your desk, and you don't ever do anything but that, like, you're kinking. things up.
Mhm.
Like they're not moving. And so I love, and I'm telling you, like, if y'all know our story with, just even getting pregnant and stuff, I did acupuncture. I did acupuncture and herbs, and I swear by it. And I always said that, like, that was the best I ever felt when I was getting going to acupuncture regularly and then taking the herbs, which we called fertilizer because it looked like dirt and tasted like dirt. But I know it was like adrenal support, but it gave me such great energy. But y'all, like, that's probably why, because I probably was in the fight or flight stress mode. And especially when you are trying to get pregnant, as much as you try to let it go, you're not. There's no way to. So it's almost like you need that kind of things. But for people who can't afford chiropractor, acupuncture, because sadly, that's not covered by anything and it is more expensive. What do you share with people? And aside from, look, easily, just like free things y'all can do,
Mhm.
walk, exercise. Like, you can
Oh,
do
yeah.
yoga. There's free videos online. You can stretch every day. You don't even need a rebounder to jump. You can jump in place. You don't need
Mhm.
a vibration plate. I mean, a lot of things are great tools that you can add, but there are so many free things to do. And even like breathing and, all this stuff, which sounds crazy. And like you said, grounding. So what are some like specific things, like calls to action that people can do on their own that's free or cheap or something that they can incorporate into their daily routine that does help with the nervous system regulation?
I love free medicine, and it's all around us, and we don't always see it. We wanna pay top dollar for these crazy invasive interventions. But, I mean, you honestly hit on a lot of them. Slow nasal breathing is one of my favorites. Some form of breath work is, I mean, we're doing it right now. We're breathing, we're alive, but we don't focus on it as a therapy. And if we can just take ourselves away several times a day from the day-to-day stress that we have and just breathe, if you actually do it and you do it with intention, it works very well. But some people do it as just a box to check off of their already crazy list, and it doesn't work as well. And you're
Mhm.
just going through the motions. It's like exercise too, right? You can go in there, you can do your sets and do your reps, and you can just do that till the cows come home. But you're not doing it intentionally. You're not doing it with strength and with vigor. You're going through the motions. So where you are now is where you will stay. But if we focus on very slow nasal breathing multiple times per day, it is one of the easiest ways to get yourself into parasympathetics and regulate that autonomic nervous system.
Yeah.
Additionally, in that same way, for maybe like for you, Holly, if the movement is your medicine, then just taking every 30, 45 minutes, taking a walk. If you can get outside, better for you. If you're in an office, walk around the office, go to the bathroom, take an extra lap. I mean, just get your body moving. Get out of that closed state you've been in all day. All of us are sitting down right now. Our knees are up, our legs are bent. We're probably hunched a little forward looking at our phones. Like, we stay in that for hours. Do you ever do the opposite? Do you get on the ground? Do you extend your back instead of flexing it? Do you stretch your hip flexors and do a deep lunge throughout the day? Are you doing chin retractions, bringing your head back, restoring that nervous flow that's been closed off? Probably not. Not many people do it, but it's so easy to do, and it takes minutes. And then, I mean,
Yeah.
my favorite, it works really well for me, uh, but grounding, getting outside, shoes, socks off, put your feet on the earth. You might think you're a little woo woo when you're doing it first, but you will feel the difference. There are biometrics that we have studied to look at how people feel who are standing in their little foot prisons and they're in their feet all day or they're in their shoes all day versus the people who actually take their shoes off and walk. I mean, even Dr. Benton, she walks around this office all day barefoot. She knows what she's doing and she feels great. She's got great energy.
Yes.
But it actually changes the thermography of your body, and we see that. If you are
Mm.
on Earth, your those hot spots, those inflammatory spots on your body, they reduce. Your brain activity, if we study your brain activity, totally changes favorably. So one of my favorite things to do, and then I mentioned it earlier too, um, if we're a little bit more sluggish and overwhelmed and we're exhausted from all of the stress, be it mental, emotional, or biochemical, whatever it is, cold water immersions, even just dunking your face in cold water, filling up a bowl with some ice and water, putting your face in that, and just kind of engaging the pathway that wasn't engaged. It's very, very helpful, and it's incredibly energizing too if the appropriate person is using it. But I mean, this you can do this right now if you're listening to this podcast. Like, it is free of charge. And I want people to emphasize those medicines, because that's really what creates the conditions for health, is if we hammer those home.
That's right. And start there, right? Because I saw something yesterday that said the most over abused drug for anxiety is food. The most underutilized remedy for anxiety is exercise or movement
Mhm.
and or a walk. And I cannot stress this enough. If you or your child is struggling with anxiety, depression, all those things, yes, we want to look at the gut first. I highly encourage everyone to get the gut looked at first, but also get outside, number one.
Mhm.
And as you walk, give thanks for every good thing you can think of in your life. Literally train your brain to go to positive, and then get involved and serve someone else so that your mind is not on you 24/7. Now, I'm
Mhm.
not saying it's going to solve every single person's issue. What I will say in my own life, when I've struggled with those things, when I get back to those basics, which are entirely free, I have been able to completely change the way I was thinking. And I just think we're not living in a society that's encouraged enough, but also, I mean, us four know it, but we live in the wellness world. We know. For those, some people just don't understand when you are not meant to sit at a desk behind a screen covered up over a shelter where
Mhm.
with artificial light and regulated temperature. That you are meant to live, as you said, Ben, in the grass, in the world, which is why that
That's it.
grounding, while it sounds weird, people don't realize how far removed they are from how they were created, which
Yeah.
is not to have a soul between your foot and the ground. It was for you to touch it and to get
Yeah.
the energy from that, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I was listening. I do this workout from this girl. She's amazing. And I loved her perspective on one of them. Like, literally, I was dying at the end of her workout, or thought I was. I mean, obviously not, but you know that feeling, like where you have done this whole thing, you're already dying. And then you do like 3 sets of like jump squats and mountain climbers and stuff, and you want to like kill her.
Yeah.
But at the end, when like you're laying down, right? And just like even in Shavasana and yoga, or just anything, when you've done like a really good workout and you're done and you're like, oh my gosh, like, and you feel your heart pumping, you feel all this stuff. Like, she was like, just feel the life flowing through you right now. I mean, that is life. That is your muscles were just contracting. Your heart is pumping. Your lungs are like expanding and contracting. Like, you are
Feel
living. And it's like that get to versus have to mindset. And like when you said being intentional, and just even with your walks, instead of, I mean, look, I listen to podcasts, I make phone calls when I go for walks, like all this stuff. But it's great also to put the phone down and do a gratitude walk. Like you said, I think just turning things into, it's the mindset thing once again, being grateful for it instead of dreading it, and just knowing
Mhm.
that there are people out there that wish they could be doing what you're doing right now. So, I
Wow.
mean, I know we say this a lot, and it's just cliche, but it is one of those things. And Holly, I also love you saying like to go do something whenever I am having like a blah day, or like I look around, I have all this stuff to do, but I don't feel like doing it, or just like everything, or you're overwhelmed. I do take those days, and it's just weird because like those are the days I want to like send a nice message to somebody or do something nice for somebody, because I can't do anything for me that day. But if I fill somebody else's bucket, it helps me. And so I
Mhm.
think on those days that you're feeling blah, it will fill your bucket when you fill somebody else's bucket.
Mhm.
And there's a principle too, I think, right? And then when whatever you sow, you reap. And listen, if there's something you need, go give it. That's
Hmm.
how it
Mhm.
comes back to you. That's how it comes back to you. And so I think you're exactly right, Kristen. I do want to touch on this because I know we have a lot of listeners whose children are struggling with their own mental health.
Mhm.
Someone told me 50% of this youngest generation is on some type of like medication for their anxiety, ADHD, what have you. Now, listen, we could go on because we are Maha moms who are screaming from the rooftops. Our kids are not doing well, and we've got to fix it, right? Like
Mhm.
that's something we're real passionate about. But Can we talk about how parents can help their children who are struggling regulating their own nervous systems and their own emotions and their own mindsets? What advice are you giving to parents about that, Dr. Ben?
It's really challenging to do, just with the world that our kids are growing up in right now. So I give grace for it, but sometimes it's not always about what you can do, but it's what you don't do. And I think right now kids are very overstimulated, and a lot of it has to do with the cell phones and the internet and the video games. And I don't think that that's helping in any way. They find comfort in scrolling, but they also find stress in validation for things that they're posting on social media. Obviously, we talked about the artificial light and how late kids will stay up with technology, and it disconnects them. So if you get back to the basics for it, there are nutritional things that I will do with kids, and I'll focus on nutrition. They respond very well to it. I'll also use homeopathy a lot with my peds because they respond so well to it. They don't even know what's happening, but they respond very well to it. So there are some biochemical things that we can do, but a lot of it, the hard part is really try to fill their days with things that disconnect them from the bad habits, and make sure that they have a lot of love at home, and make sure that it is a safe and supportive environment for them. Make sure that they are engaging socially with their friend groups. That is like number one. I'm thinking about a patient I just had recently who, surprise, surprise, a lot of her symptoms got better. She's like a 13-year-old girl. A lot of her symptoms are getting better the more then we see this pattern, the more that she's at her dance classes and in her school clubs and at her church events with her friends. No coincidence for me, but that's how you nourish a kid's nervous system, because right now the world is set up for a very, very dysregulated nervous system, and it's very toxic, and kids are they're the biggest consumers of that, sadly. So less about what to do. Obviously, get them very physically active. Find something that they do that they enjoy. It was dance for this patient. It might be the weight room. Perhaps it's sports. And lower their expectations, because expectations of who we think we have to be, who we think we should be. Can I actually become that? I'm not good enough. These are the thoughts that even as adults have into our adulthood and spilled over. And we're like, where is this coming from? Where's this coming from? Boy, you learned that when you were 9 years old. You just don't realize that. That inner you, that inner child right now is the one, this isn't a new emotion for you. You've had this emotion your entire life, and now it's just coming out, and you just suppressed it and suppressed it and suppressed it. So the best thing a parent can do is love and make sure they're very supported in all of those holistic health categories that we work with.
This is also really important, just to touch on this. I know we got to wrap up, but because parents, I really want you to pay attention to what he just said, because of the huge increase in suicides with teens right now. We learned recently at a convention, a little retreat that Amy and I were at, that suicide is the second leading cause of death for children in the U.S. ages 10 to 14. 10 to 14. I didn't even believe it. I was like, wait a minute. And I looked it up, and it is true. That is, if anything, will shock you into getting them off the phones, in good friend groups, showing them love, getting them outside, getting them to exercise, like doing all of the things that you could possibly do. But also, you don't want to stress yourself out about it. But truly, it is so important, y'all, because please just pay attention. I mean, and this is for all of us. Like, it is, I know Holly, her kids have gone through this with some of their friend groups and blindsided. And you think you know, but you don't. But I don't want to end this on a negative, sad note. Let's turn around to something happy after this. If somebody think of something happy. But I think it just really does tie into, like, this is all related. And if you start it now, think about the issues we're having as adults now because we didn't know. Now we know what we do because Dr. Ben has educated us, and we can educate our kids and pay attention and instill the good habits and values and morals and love and everything right now, early.
It starts with you. That's a great way to end that thought, is that it shouldn't be more stressful for a a parent to have to try to fix all of this for their kids and create the perfect environment. It starts with you. Lead by example and be a good influence for your kids. If you are practicing what you are preaching to your children, then they will be much more receptive to it. And if you are full of love and energy and you love to move and you're providing them good food and you're doing that for yourself, they're watching. They're watching. And if they see how you feel and how you behave with them and in your own marriage or friend groups, like that is step one. That's what you should do. Focus on yourself, be a good example for your children.
Yes.
But I will say this too. Oh, go ahead.
Holly was talking, but you're muted, Holly.
Oh, it's the
Go,
dog.
Ben, go.
Go ahead, Ben. It's just I saw Holly's lips moving.
Go. I want Ben to say what he was going to say. Go.
Right.
No, I was just thinking about it because I was talking about phones and just how technology has really not helped our nervous systems at all. It's probably there's probably no coincidence in the trend of how poorly our nervous systems function and how much more that we're using technology. So I'll say this in clinic all the time, but I think of our nervous system like the Wi-Fi of our body, and we've got all of these apps or these organs throughout our body. But if the Wi-Fi is down, the apps don't work. Doesn't matter what apps you have. So I try to encourage them to say, bolster your Wi-Fi, improve your connection. Let's get some strong fibers running through our body that are going to help us connect that Wi-Fi to those apps. And
Know
it's silly, but
everybody
I'll say that with kids all the time.
Yeah.
With
You know,
apps,
everybody's
I want to throw this out there. Saw this ad, and this is just for everybody. And I did a 7-day free trial. I don't know that I'm going to use this exact one because you do have to pay for it. Not that I'm against that, but but there's an app called Be Present, and it was created by two boys because of their mom's phone addiction. They saw their mom on their phone, like they just got worse and worse and worse. So it's really cool because you set your intention, like you have your apps that you feel like you just are mindlessly going to these apps. And it's also hard for, I feel like the three of us specifically, because we run businesses and things on social media. So sometimes I can't guarantee that I can only be on social media for 10 minutes at a time, like it's just impossible. And it's sporadic and everything. However, there are free apps out there, y'all, that if this is a problem for you where you just feel like you're picking up your phone mindlessly and you want to get out of the habit, there are free apps that like you can download. And then like if you click on Instagram or something, it'll just say, are you sure? Like, do you really want to get on right now? Just one extra step to like snap you into be like, wait a minute, do I really need to get on here right now?
Makes you question
Like it just
yourself.
makes you think about it.
Or
So
take 3 deep breaths every time you get on your app.
yeah, or like you've been
Yeah.
on for this long, or you like just little things to like remind you of what you're doing, because a lot of this becomes mindless. We talk about the mindless scrolling, the mindless eating, and it is just trying to help bring back intention back into all of your activities. And so just throwing that out there for anybody who feels like that's an issue for them, where they're just like, you don't even realize how many times you're just getting on because you're just getting on.
Right.
Just
No, I
maybe
think
try
that's a
one.
great idea. Like I don't want to drag cell phones. They're great. They connect us to what we need to do and the people that we love. They're wonderful in that way. And you're right that if we're going to use them and they're going to be so ubiquitous, we might as well do the good with them too. And they've got a ton of, Calm and Headspace. There are a ton of apps that actually, like if we're having a problem getting into our parasympathetics and we find that hard, these apps help guide you and they're really, really good at it too. And if we're using our phone for that, go ahead. I don't care. That sounds great.
Yeah.
And there's one more thing that I'll add to kind of end this on a positive note of something that I know Amy and Kristen can attest to too. But sometimes when I look at the way that I've been able to handle stress, anxiety, grief, loss, whatever, there's a million things we're all dealing with every day. I think so much of my resilience and the way that I get back to peace the fastest is through my faith. And I share that because I do see a lot of people wrestling with so much fear and anxiety, but it's over things they can't control. And I think one thing that I've learned from my faith is I'm not in control of everything, but I am deeply loved and cared for. And when I come from that mindset and that place, I can let go of the things I can't control and retreat into a space of feeling, loved but without end, right? Like I know that I am loved and cared for, that there is something greater than me that cares more about me than I care about me. And I can retreat into that space and go, well, I can't control that. There's something really powerful about knowing what you can and can't control. But I said, by the same token, I'm also telling you, listeners, you can control so much of how you think and what you think. And that is a skill that you can get better and better at. When you go, nope, that does not serve me, not going there. Even with my sleep, Dr. Ben, if I wake up worried in the middle of the night, I will boss myself around and go right. I'm like, nope, doing this. You're not thinking about this. You're not. And I know that some people think I sound crazy. I could tell when I first tell them, boss your brain around. I'm like, what do you mean? So many things can feel like a compulsion, right? But kind of like with the app Amy was saying, when you have something that blocks it and goes, wait a minute, are you sure? You sure you want to go there?
Mhm.
Yeah.
There is such a gift in having my faith to go back to that informs me that I am loved and I'm not in control of everything, but I am in control of what I've been given. And when I focus on that and I take care of that, y'all, I live in this world in a pretty peaceful place most of the time. Not to say I ain't mad at everything. Amy and Kristen can tell you, especially in my 50s, Dr. Ben, these hormones, man, I am mad at some things. But I learned how to regulate myself right back to peace too. You know what I mean? Like, let it go.
Yeah.
So
And that
I
didn't
want to
happen
encourage people.
overnight for you. You
No,
practiced that.
that's
That's the
right.
key
I've
takeaway right
learned.
there. Keep
That's right.
doing it. Our body loves structure. It loves routine. Our nervous system loves it just the same. You have to continually do it. Make the bad habit a good habit. It sucks at first, but be radically honest with yourself. Be radically honest with yourself. Is this for my health or is it against my health? And it just feels good for a moment.
Yep.
Amen. And it is learned. It is so learned and practiced. And I am so much better at it at 50 than I was at 25. So much better, you know? And that's one of the beautiful things about getting older is that we do get wiser and we can learn. We can
Absolutely.
learn, right? And we can get better. Well, Dr. Ben, I know that, there are people who are going to benefit from listening to this today. If for no other reason, they're realizing they're living in a stressful situation internally way more than is good for them and that it will catch up. And to start putting things into practice. Now, if you've listened to all this today and it's still, you're like, listen, I might need extra help. Good news. Dr. Ben is available to you, and so is Benton Integrative. His practice, they do telemedicine visits. That's how Kristen and Amy and I see him in Charlotte. We're in the same state, not in the same city. But we encourage you to connect with them. And if they're not able to help you, what Dr. Ben and Dr. Cami Benton always say is we will help them find. We'll do our best to help connect them where they can get the help they needed because they really lead with love and they really care about each and every person and really want everyone to live well. So, Dr. Ben, thank you for being with us today.
Thank
Thank you guys again. This is so much fun. I hope it was helpful.
Always helpful. We'll see you next month.
Yep.
All right. Bye, everybody.